Hello and welcome in to Talking Bengals 149. I'm here tonight solo only because the rest of the boys are out looking for players to play on defense after that abysmal game against the Jets. So you get me tonight by myself, so bear with me. And I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to jump into Cheers and Jeers. Cheers and Jeers is brought to you by W Energy. Looking for some extra energy or focus to get you through your day without the crash? Look for no further than W Energy. Head over to w.gg and use promo code TBCFB10 for 10% off your order. That's DUBBY.GG and promo code TBCFB10. All right, so for me, kicking off my cheers, I'm going to run through three of them. Of course, I've got to go with Jamar Chase, 12 catches on 19 targets for 94 yards. My next one, I'm going to go with the run game. Chase Brown, looking like he's back, 12 carries, 73 yards, and a beautiful touchdown there. He also had three catches in the passing game for 32 yards. P. Ryan, 9 carries, 94 yards, and a touchdown. He also had a catch for 6 yards. And then my last cheer is DJ Turner, 4 targets, 33 interceptions, 3 completions on those 4 targets on 33 passes attempts, 3 completions allowed for 53 yards. He did give up a touchdown. I'm not too concerned about that touchdown because, you know, he was only targeted 4 times on 33 passes by Justin Fields. And, uh, you know, the rest of the defense needed to step up in this game, which is going to lead me right into my jeers. Um, Everyone not named DJ Turner, it's bad. It's bad all around. The defense looks terrible. 81 missed tackles so far in the open field through 8 weeks. This time last year, there was only 29 missed tackles in the open field. They also gave up 248 yards on the passing game, 254 in the rushing game. 4 of those runs were for 137, and you just beg the question of who's going to step up. And that was the question that was asked over the end of the press conference with Zach Taylor. Al Golden has said it. They had a players only meeting this week about individuals needing to step up. Geno Stone has been vocal about being one of those guys in the secondary that's going to step up and be the leader on that defense. But without Trey Hendrickson, this team looks lost in the sauce on defense. Shamar Stewart has a lot of raw talent, as the scouting report showed at the draft, but he is looking so out of place all the time. It's sad. He's taking back lip breaks, he's taking back cuts here and there. It's I get it. You want potential and something that you can mold and grow, and I think Al Golden can't do that with a Shamar Stewart. Um, but like Al Golden said in his press conference earlier this week, this league will pass you by if you don't step up now. So there's no time to waste. To quote John Cena, their time is up, your time is now. And with a lot of gaping holes in this defense, it's time for Shamar Stewart to step up. I've given a lot of praise to the rookie linebackers with Carter and Knight at points during the season, but they're looking like rookies, and it's kind of crazy to me that we just completely um, abandoned your veteran pass rushers and your backers. I've asked the question all the time: where's Orion Brooks? My goodness, if I could talk tonight, Orion Burks. And I get benching Logan Wilson to see what you have in your young guys. It's what we've been begging Lou Anarumo for the last 3 seasons. They finally decided to go with it with Al Golden, and it's not working. You've got to get more reps. You've got to get these guys opportunities. Talking about Burks and Wilson, and work them in more and more and more into this because Carter and Knight can't do it alone. As I mentioned earlier, Trey Hendrickson re-aggravated his hip injury on a terrible play that should have been called a penalty, in my personal opinion. It wasn't called, but it is what it is. And so a guy like Myles Murphy gets more snaps, but yet he can't get to the quarterback. And then also they only had 3 tackles for loss in this entire game, and they haven't had a sack since the Lions game a couple weeks ago. That's not good. You've got to be able to get to the quarterback. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. My other jeer, I know that was kind of long-winded as far as the defense goes, but there's just so much you could just bitch and complain about when it comes to the defense. So I'm going to move on to Zach Taylor's clock management and play calling in the fourth quarter. I posted it on social media. So if you didn't see our social media post about it, you get the ball back with 7:48 left in the fourth quarter. You're up 38-32. Your defense needs a breather. First play call, it's an incomplete pass on an RPO, or what should have just allowed them to run it and get the clock going and start chewing that clock. Second down, it's 7:45, so you only took 3 seconds off the clock on the Jamar Chase drop. Again, should have been a run call, and yet we have another incomplete pass. Another 4 seconds come off the clock. We're down on third down, 7:41. Now you have to pass the ball because after the 2 completions on there, your offensive line breaks down in the pocket. Flacco has to move outside, and he just absolutely gets wrecked and injures his shoulder, comes out. You think that he's done because you see him after this, they punt the ball back with 7:04 left. You ran off the clock 44 seconds in that time period when it should have been at least easily 3 or 4 minutes taken off the clock if you did it strategically. But they didn't play strategically. They played not to lose the game. And unfortunately, when you play not to lose the game, you end up losing the game, which is what happened. And as a head coach, an offensive play caller at that, as much as it's on the defense, this loss is on you and your inability to effectively call the correct plays and manage the play clock. And you have to be held accountable for that. Not anybody else, not your quarterback, not your receivers, not your run game, not your offensive line. They all play a part in all of that. But you as the head coach of the football team have to take accountability into that. And it's amazing to me that it's 9:51 on Tuesday and you still have a job, Zach Taylor. That's mind-boggling to me. And if the season continues to go the way it's gone for these last, 5 of the 6 weeks, I don't understand why Zach Taylor shouldn't be fired already or isn't fired before the season ends. If this team misses the playoffs, Zach Taylor definitely doesn't have a job at the end of the year. Now, it is what it is. We see that. We chalk it up. You're professional football players. You're a professional football team. Zach Taylor, you're a head coach in the NFL. You've got to chalk it up, and you've got to move on to the next week. And we'll get to that Bears preview here in just a minute. But we do have some good news that has come out this week. Hall of Famer advancements. Willie Anderson advances to the semis for the traditional Pro Football Hall of Fame. So kudos to Willie Anderson for that. Ken Anderson selected as one of the 162 for the Senior Hall of Fame selections. And former kicker Jim Breach joins Ken Anderson this year. So shout out to Willie, Ken, and Jim for those selections. Willie and Ken, we've praised for many years on this show of all the good things that they did for the organization and how well they played, and they deserve to be in Canton. And Jim Breach is no exception to that. So all 3 of these gentlemen, good luck to you the rest of the way. We'll be watching closely. All right. So moving into the preview for this week, my key takeaways for the Bears game is you got to apply pressure to Caleb Williams early and often. You only have 29 QB hits this year and 11 sacks. That ranks you at 29 and 28 respectively across the league. Um, those are very much rookie numbers. You got to bump those numbers up. So you got to get those going. You got to load the box on the runs and trust your secondary to make plays. Make Caleb Williams try to beat you with his arm. And if your secondary is out there making plays, DJ Turner, Dax Hill, Geno Stone, Jordan Battle, those guys, DJ Ivy. I don't want to see CTB out there. We've caught a lot of issues with that. You can do a healthy scratch for him. Again, it seemed to work when we played Pittsburgh on Thursday night 2 weeks ago. So now I think that's the move forward. You got to keep him off the field because he's too much of a liability. And you got to trust the guys that want to work hard and play hard and go out there and make plays. So that's what I think is what you need to do on the defensive side. On the offensive side, you've got to lean on the run game. Last week, you had 23 carries for 181 yards against the Jets, 23 carries for 142 against the Steelers. It worked. Running the ball more than 20 times a game is a proven method to open up your passing game. You know, if you look at the Steelers game alone, we weren't running the ball prior to the Steelers game very well. We ran the ball. Jamar breaks his own record with 16 catches. You get into last week, Flacco gets another 2 touchdowns passing, over 260 yards passing across the board. But you also have to target T. Higgins more than twice. Yeah, 1 catch for 44 yards and a touchdown against the Jets. And he only had 1 other target the rest of the game. You've got to work him in and get him the ball, especially on an exposed secondary like they had. They didn't have Sauce Gardner out there. They had a couple key elements on the Jets secondary that didn't play on Sunday. And this is no different with the Bears. You've got to be able to target your 1 and 2s more than 1 or 2 times a game. Okay. So my final prediction for this is 41-27 Bengals. I think they bounce back. I really don't like the Bears as a whole. I think the Bengals fare better in the matchup this week than they did against the Steelers. I thought the Bengals were far superior of a team than the Jets, and they just blew it in the fourth quarter. So I look for a bounce back. You had that players only meeting with the defense. I think we're going to see a different defense the rest of the way, or at least I hope that we see a different defense the rest of the way. So 41-27, I still think they give up a few scores, a couple field goals there. This is where I would normally give my colleagues an opportunity to say some more things that I haven't already mentioned. So just moving into my final thoughts, we appreciate everybody that tunes into us every week. If you don't already, you can go to Facebook, Instagram, X, TikToks, Threads, YouTube. Follow us. We are at Talkin_Bengals. If you're tired of listening to the Bengals, we do a college football show. It's at Talkin CFB on all platforms that I just mentioned, except for X, where X is at Talkin_CFB1. Where again, I'll be running solo again for that show this week. But you can usually hear me and Nick banter about all things college football. So with that, I bid you all good night and a hoo day.